Hi there, I'm Skylar. My parents kicked me out at 13 because of a lie my sister told, and no one asked if it was true. Not once. They just believed her. And just like that, I lost everything. My home, my family, my place in the world. Years passed. They moved on, pretended I never existed, but I kept going. Quietly, alone. And now, they see my face on billboards, my name on a book, my story everywhere. But here's the thing. Do they regret what they did, or do they just regret that I survived without them? Success feels like a slow echo in an empty room. It bounces off the walls, loud at first, then fades into a kind of silence that only survivors recognize. I never imagined the first time I'd feel the weight of everything I'd achieved would be because of a text message. It wasn't congratulations. It wasn't anything personal. It was just a name. Mom. Lighting up my phone after over a decade of absolute silence. I stood still, the phone buzzing again in my hand, and for a second I couldn't even remember the sound of her voice. But my fingers shook. My chest tightened. I didn't open the message. Instead, I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the name, as if it might change, as if maybe I was mistaken. I wasn't. That name cracked something. It made my chest heavy, like I'd swallowed stones. I hadn't thought about her in months, maybe years. Not really. I'd built a life, my own apartment, my own business, my own people, but her name made it all collapse inward like a trapdoor under my feet. And just like that, I was 13 again. Back in Boise, back in that suffocating house with walls that whispered things I wasn't supposed to hear. Back with Marla, my twin sister. Everyone always thought twins were supposed to be close. Two halves of one soul, but if that were true, Marla had swallowed her half of mine and smiled while doing it. We looked alike. That's where the similarities ended. I was loud, curious, always outside riding my bike, always asking questions. She stayed quiet, glued to books she didn't read, listening at doors she wasn't supposed to be behind. I had friends. She had followers. No one noticed that difference but me. Our parents, especially my mother, treated her like she could do no wrong. It didn't matter that I made the volleyball team, or that my English teacher said I had the sharpest mind in class. At home, I was the screw-up. Marla got gold stars just for existing. I got lectures for breathing too loud. That day at school, everything shifted. It was after lunch, and I was walking back to class when Mrs. Carmichael, the assistant principal, called my name over the intercom. My stomach dropped. I hadn't done anything. At least I didn't think I had. I remember walking down the hallway, my sneakers squeaking on the floor, and every step felt heavier than the last. The counselor's office smelled like coffee and panic. Inside sat Principal Jansen, arms folded, face stiff. Next to him, a counselor I barely knew and the boy from math class, Ethan, awkward and red-faced. They showed me screenshots from a phone, explicit texts, my name, my picture. I couldn't breathe. I didn't write these, I whispered. My voice barely existed. That's not my phone. I've never even had his number. They didn't believe me. Not really. Ethan mumbled something about not wanting to get anyone in trouble. My heart thudded so loudly in my ears I missed half of what they said next. Suspension? Investigation? My parents would be called. I remember standing up too quickly, feeling the world tilt. When I stepped out of the room, I saw Marla standing in the hallway. She was leaning against a locker, arms crossed. She didn't even flinch when our eyes met. In fact, she smirked, that half smile, half sneer. I felt something inside me shatter. That evening I tried to explain. I sat at the kitchen table while my dad stared at the wall, and Mom cleaned the same spot on the counter for 20 straight minutes. They're wrong, I said. It's not true. I didn't send anything. Mom turned to me like I'd insulted her personally. Marla would never do something like this, she said without even blinking. I hadn't mentioned Marla. Hours later, I left my room to get water and stopped cold in the hallway. The lights were off. Their bedroom door was cracked open. I heard Mom's voice, low but sharp, like a blade pressed against skin. I can't deal with her anymore. Marla's the only one I can trust. The other one? She's just trouble. I didn't cry. I didn't move. I just stood there, barefoot on the hardwood floor, feeling like a ghost in my own house. Maybe I already was. After that night, nothing was the same. Marla walked through school like royalty. I shrank. Teachers looked at me with pity or suspicion. My friends drifted off, one by one, avoiding eye contact like they might catch something from me. I stopped speaking in class. I stopped showing up to practice. I started eating lunch in the girls' bathroom. That stall became my only safe place, cold tile walls and all. One afternoon, Miss Glassman handed me an envelope. Suspension, official. It wasn't the school that broke me. It was the silence at home. The fact that when I showed my mom the letter, she didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't even look at me. I kept that suspension letter tucked inside my math textbook, pretending I might still need it someday. Like maybe someone, somewhere, would finally care to read it and realize they were wrong. But no one asked, and no one looked. The envelope stayed sealed. My world, however, didn't. The house felt smaller almost overnight, like the walls had decided I didn't deserve space anymore. It wasn't just that I couldn't return to school. It was that home had shifted from cold indifference to something far more calculated. My mother didn't scream. She didn't slam doors or throw dishes. She just made sure I knew I wasn't welcome in my own life anymore. "You'll stay in your room until you learn to act like your sister," she said one morning, not even bothering to turn and look at me while she folded a dish towel. Her tone was flat, efficient, like she was talking about a grocery list. "Act like a liar?" I mumbled. Wrong move. Her eyes narrowed just enough to make the air in my throat freeze. "Don't push me, Skylar." I wasn't allowed past the hallway. No television, no phone. My laptop disappeared. When I asked about it, my dad shoved his hand in the air and muttered, "Don't make this harder than it has to be." That was his thing. Passive threats, emotional landmines disguised as reason. By day 3, my door was gone. Literally unhinged and dragged into the garage like it had committed a crime. In its place, my dad had taped a paper sign written in red marker, "Restricted area, do not enter." I stood in front of it for a full minute before going back inside. My room wasn't a bedroom anymore. It was a punishment cell. Food was left outside on paper plates like I had some kind of disease. The only contact I had with my parents was the sound of footsteps coming and going. Marla's voice floated down the hall every evening. Fake laughs, loud compliments, some new show she was watching with Dad. She even called him Pops now, like she was in on a private joke I didn't get to hear. The worst part wasn't the cruelty. It was the control, the eerie silence in place of answers. I scratched a question into the corner of my wooden desk with the tip of a pen. Am I even their daughter? One night I decided I couldn't take it anymore. Not the silence, not the invisibility. I folded a piece of notebook paper and started writing. It wasn't long, just a few lines. "I'm still your daughter. I don't know what Marla told you. I just want to be heard." I slipped it into a plain envelope and wrote Mom in cursive across the front. No frills, no begging, just truth. I tiptoed down the hallway while the living room TV hummed in the distance. Her bedroom door was cracked open. I placed the envelope on her neatly folded throw blanket and backed away like I was handling a grenade. I didn't sleep that night. I kept waiting, listening for the sound of footsteps approaching, the possibility that she'd knock or even just slide the door back into my frame. Nothing. By morning, the envelope had returned. It was on my pillow, torn directly down the middle. Not a word written, not a note. Just a quiet act of violence that made it clear. I wasn't misunderstood. I was unwanted. I pressed the ripped paper against my chest like I could somehow absorb it and dull the sting. My body curled in on itself as Marla's voice echoed from the kitchen. She was talking to Dad again, laughing. Something about a comedian on late-night TV. "I swear," he said, "my wife's so dumb, she thinks a prenup is a fitness app." Dad chuckled, amused. They were bonding over punchlines while I counted ceiling tiles and tried to imagine what life might feel like without always trying to prove I belonged. That night I made a choice. I flipped open my old math notebook, useless now, and began writing in the margins. Not equations, just memories, thoughts, moments no one saw. I called it the Book of Nobody in my head. That name made sense. I wasn't Skylar anymore. I was nobody. I wrote about the hallway, the paper plates, the missing door. I wrote about how quiet cruelty cuts deeper than yelling. I wrote until my hand cramped, then slid the notebook under the loose floorboard beneath my bed, the one spot Marla didn't know existed. If no one will hear me, I whispered to the dark, I'll leave something behind that says I was here, that I mattered. A few more days passed in the usual silence. I'd learned to stop expecting sounds of concern from the hallway. No footsteps slowing near my door, no knocks, no questions. Just the clinking of dishes from the kitchen, the low hum of sitcoms Marla laughed too loudly at, and the occasional barking command from my father, reminding me what not to touch. It was a Sunday morning when the next crack appeared. I had just stepped out of my room to use the bathroom, a rare moment when I dared cross the invisible boundary of their rules. Marla was already there, leaning against the doorframe with a cup of juice like she'd been waiting for me. "You really think writing little love notes to Mom is going to fix your freak reputation?" she said casually, swirling her drink. I ignored her and stepped forward, reaching for the doorknob. She didn't move. "You don't get it, do you?" she whispered, smiling. "You were never one of us." I didn't reply. I pressed my shoulder slightly, nudging past her, not shoving, just enough to squeeze by. She gasped dramatically and dropped to the floor like a rag doll, letting the cup spill across the tiles. "Ow! She pushed me! She did it again!" she cried out loud and trembling like she was auditioning for a crime show. I froze. My hand was still on the bathroom door. I hadn't even looked at her. An hour later, my mother appeared at my door. No knock, no warning. She stood in the frame, holding an ice pack against her temple like a crown of accusation. "You shoved me into the doorframe, Skylar," she said coldly. My head snapped up. "What?" "Marla said you were angry. You shoved past her. She said you've been unstable. Then when I asked you to explain, you lashed out. You hit me." I shot up from my mattress. "I didn't touch you. Are you kidding me?" My father's voice boomed from behind her. "You've crossed the line." He shoved past both of us and yanked open my closet door. "Get your things." "What? No, please, just listen to me." He was pulling clothes off hangers and tossing them into my old duffel bag. No folding, no care. Like I was already gone. I ran to grab his arm. "I didn't do anything." "You're a threat to this house," he growled. "To your own mother." "She's lying," I cried, pointing toward Marla's room. "Ask her to say it to my face." My mother didn't speak. She stood behind him like a shadow, arms folded, expression carved from concrete. I wanted to scream, but my throat was closing. The panic sat hot in my chest, rising like bile. I tried again. I begged, "Please, please, Mom." She turned away. I sank to the floor, knees hitting hardwood, sobbing into my hands as the zipper of my duffel closed behind me like a prison door. As my father stormed out, I reached for my phone. Somehow it was still in the drawer. Maybe they'd forgotten it. My fingers trembled as I opened the screen. Marla had posted her latest masterpiece. "Abusers belong behind locked doors or out in the street." Over 400 likes. Comments flooding in. "Stay strong, girl." "You're so brave for speaking up. She's toxic. You don't deserve that." I dropped the phone onto the bed like it burned. She'd gone public. She wasn't content ruining me at home. She wanted an audience. I didn't have anyone to call. Not really. So I did the only thing I could. I slipped outside, crossed the street barefoot, and knocked on Mrs. O'Neill's door. Her eyes widened at the sight of me. "Skylar, honey, are you okay? Can I use your phone?" Minutes later, Grandma Eloise's voice cracked through the speaker. "I'm coming right now." She arrived in 15 minutes flat, storming into the yard like a hurricane dressed in orthopedic shoes and a windbreaker. "Where is she?" she asked. "Where's Denise?" My mother emerged from the porch, arms crossed. "She can't stay here anymore," she said bluntly. "She's unstable." Eloise's jaw tightened. "She's your daughter, Denise. She's not safe." My father appeared behind her. "She can take her, but she's not coming back." Eloise squared her shoulders. "You think treating your own child like garbage makes you better? Richard, if you weren't my son-in-law—" He cut her off with a sneer. "You say one more word, and I swear I'll call CPS on you for interfering." That was it. Eloise turned, her voice soft now. "Let's go, Sky." I didn't argue. I didn't even grab the duffel, just my backpack. No one stopped me. No one apologized. No one even looked up. The door closed behind me, and I didn't flinch. I climbed into the passenger seat, still trembling, as Eloise drove in silence. We passed the school, the park, the gas station where Dad used to take us for ice cream. None of it felt real anymore. My hands clutched the straps of my backpack like they were the only things tethering me to earth. In the rearview mirror, my house got smaller and smaller, like it couldn't disappear fast enough. The first night at Eloise's house, I barely moved. I curled up on the pull-out couch like a stray animal that didn't know if the new shelter was safe or just temporary. The silence wasn't as sharp as it had been in my parents' house. It was softer here, the kind you fall asleep to. Still, I didn't. Over the next few months, I built a routine. Wake up before Eloise, fix my own breakfast, walk to school, keep my head down, come home, study, eat quietly, sleep, repeat. She never asked questions unless they mattered, like whether I wanted chicken or meatloaf, or if I remembered to take the trash bins out. That was the kindness I hadn't realized I'd needed. But healing isn't instant, and comfort isn't a cure. Even in a safe place, shame clung to me like smoke. I walked through the hallways of my new school, with my shoulders curved inward, like I was trying to take up less space. My new classmates had heard things. Rumors spread fast, even in towns that barely knew your name. One Monday, I opened my locker to find a sticky note. She hits Mom's, stay clear. I didn't report it. I peeled it off, crumpled it, and tossed it. My skin burned, but I said nothing. The whispers got louder as the days passed. I caught pieces. That's her, Skylar something. She pushed her mom into a wall. Wasn't she in juvie or something? I never corrected them. What was the point? My own family hadn't defended me. Who would believe me now? Then, during lunch one day, a girl with bright orange nails leaned across the table and smirked. So, she said, loud enough for the next 3 tables to hear, how's life outside the detention center? Her friends burst into laughter. I stood up without a word, carrying my tray to a corner seat near the vending machines, my new safe zone. It wasn't a stall, but it felt just as isolated. Despite it all, I kept my grades up. Straight A's. No skipped classes. I refused to give Eloise a reason to regret taking me in. She never asked for anything, so I never asked for help. That was the silent agreement we lived by. But even engines burn out if you run them too hard. One afternoon, somewhere between biology and history, I remember standing up from my desk and then... nothing. Just a sharp, muffled thump. By the time I opened my eyes, the nurse was hovering over me and my classmates were gone. They said I'd fainted, said I looked pale, said it was probably dehydration. I knew better. They called an ambulance anyway. At the hospital, under the white blue lights and sterile scent of sanitized everything, I laid still while nurses checked my vitals and whispered about exhaustion. One of them said something about malnourishment. Another asked if I'd been skipping meals. Eloise arrived 20 minutes later, face drawn and silent. She sat beside my bed and held my hand while the doctor talked. And then she did something I didn't expect. She pulled out her phone and called my mother. I could hear the ringing, the click, and then Denise's voice, sharp and unbothered, coming through the speaker. She's at the ER, Eloise said. She collapsed. A long pause, then, that's not my responsibility anymore. You chose to take her. She's yours now. My eyes met Eloise's. She moved to hang up, but I spoke first, voice low and firm. Don't call her again. She nodded. I didn't cry. Not this time. The nurse came in an hour later with a clipboard and a warm smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. We're going to keep you overnight for observation, sweetheart, just to be safe. Okay, I said, already turning my face toward the wall. Later that evening, while Eloise went home to grab fresh clothes for me, a different nurse stepped in, young, probably fresh out of nursing school. She held a stack of magazines and paper in her arms. We leave these in the teen wing. Sometimes it helps pass time. She set them on my tray. Flyers, doodled notebooks, even a puzzle book. One flyer caught my eye. Bold letters across the top read, National Young Writers Competition, entries now open. Something shifted. I reached for it, fingers brushing the edges, and glanced down at the fine print. Original short story. 1,500 words. Submit by March 15th. I didn't know if I could write fiction. I didn't even know if I wanted to. But something inside whispered, try. That night from my hospital bed, I took the blank back of the flyer and started scribbling in pencil. Not about my life, not yet, but something close. A girl trapped in a glass house. A voice no one could hear. The words came slowly at first, then faster. No one's coming, I wrote near the bottom, but I'm still here. A week after I left the hospital, I mailed in the story. I didn't expect anything to come of it. I didn't even sign my full name, just Sky. That felt safer, like I could dip a toe into the world without letting it swallow me whole. But 3 weeks later, an envelope showed up at Eloise's mailbox. I saw the school district logo and assumed the worst. I thought maybe the rumors had circled again, or a teacher wanted to check in with the girl they assumed was emotionally unstable. I didn't expect a letter that started with, "Congratulations." I had placed second in the regional round. My story would be published in their annual anthology. There'd be a small award ceremony at the local library. Nothing big, but to me, it felt enormous. Eloise read the letter twice. Then she turned to me with watery eyes and said, "You did this, all on your own." It was the first time I'd felt proud. Not quiet survival proud, not I got through the day proud, but genuinely accomplished. Like I wasn't just existing anymore. I was building something. News of the competition must have made its way around town. Small towns were like that. Whispers traveled faster than cars. A week before the ceremony, I got a phone call. Unknown number. My stomach dropped when I heard the voice. "Skylar?" It was my father. "I saw the paper. That writing thing. Your name was in there." I froze. He chuckled like we were catching up after a weekend apart. "We're proud of you. Your mom and I, we talk about you all the time." I almost laughed. Talked about me? They hadn't said my name in 2 years. "What do you want?" I asked flatly. There was a pause. Just enough silence to feel the shift coming. "Well, we were thinking maybe you'd want to come by sometime. Visit. Maybe catch up." "Catch up," I echoed. "You're doing well. And, well, things have been tough around here. House repairs, bills, retirement planning." There it was. "You want money," I said. "What? No, not like that. We just thought since you're doing well, maybe you could pitch in a little." My jaw tightened. "I was 13 when you kicked me out," I said. "You didn't even give me shoes. Now you want help with your roof?" "Skylar," he sighed, like I was the dramatic one. "Family takes care of each other." Funny, that's not how I remember it. I hung up. I wanted to throw the phone, but instead I wrote. For hours. Not fiction this time, just memory. My truth, the broken version, the raw version. The next day I posted the story to my private blog. No names, no exact details. Just the truth. I didn't expect anyone to read it, but they did. Dozens of comments, then hundreds. People saw themselves in it. And then, a week later, I got a text from a cousin I hadn't spoken to in years. "Is this about your parents?" Then another message. "If you ever want to tell your side, I'll listen." And another. "We always wondered why you disappeared." I didn't reply right away, but I started planning. The next call came 2 weeks later, this time from a blocked number. "You think you're so clever," Marla snapped. "Writing garbage online, making people pity you? Grow up, Skylar." I didn't answer. "You're not special," she hissed. "You're just bitter. And lonely." I almost thanked her, because in that moment I knew she was wrong. I wasn't lonely. I had Eloise. I had words. I had strangers who believed me. That was more than I'd ever had with them. The final straw came the following weekend. My parents called again, this time both on speaker. "We saw what you posted," my mother said coldly. "You're painting this family in a bad light." "I didn't mention your names." "You might as well have. People are talking. Your aunt called us crying." "That's not my problem." "You want to play games?" my father snapped. "Fine, but don't expect us to just sit here while you ruin our lives." "Funny," I said calmly. "That's what I thought when you ruined mine." The silence on their end was delicious. "Here's my condition," I added. "You want money? You want me back? Then get in front of the same people you lied to and tell them the truth. That Marla framed me, that you abandoned your own child, publicly, not a text, not a phone call, an actual statement. You're insane, my mother said. No, I replied. I'm done being silent. You'll regret this, I smiled. I already regretted trusting you. There's nothing left to lose. And with that, I blocked both numbers. Then I opened my laptop and started drafting an email. Not to my parents. To every relative they had ever poisoned against me. I attached screenshots. I laid out the timeline. I told the story the way it had always happened. And at the bottom, I added, I'm not asking you to pick sides. I'm just finally speaking. I hit send. And for the first time, I didn't flinch. By the time I turned 26, Seattle felt more like home than any place I'd ever known. It was gray, sure, rainy and cold, but something about the air felt honest. I'd built my life here piece by piece, freelancing, then landing a steady job with a digital agency, then going viral for a video I almost didn't post. The clip was simple. Me speaking on branding for trauma survivors at a local seminar. A friend recorded it and uploaded it to LinkedIn without telling me. Overnight it spread. People called me brave, authentic. Some even said my words helped them find their voice. Then came the messages. I always knew you'd make something of yourself. So proud to be related to you. We should catch up sometime. Coffee? I didn't answer any of them. Too many of those names belonged to people who stayed silent when I needed noise. But one message stopped me cold. Marla, just one line. I lied, but that was 15 years ago. Move on. I stared at it for a full minute. Not shock, not even rage, just a strange, cold stillness. Like someone had opened a window in winter and the draft was creeping in. That was it? A casual confession, like she was admitting to stealing a slice of cake. Not years of character assassination? I didn't reply. Instead, I opened a note on my phone and typed a memory I hadn't let myself revisit in years. I was 9. I'd won a spelling bee at school, gold ribbon, awkward photo, the whole deal. I came home clutching the prize like it was a medal from the Olympics. The ribbon disappeared that night. Marla walked into the kitchen the next morning holding it casually. Found this under my bed, she told Mom, grinning. Mom beamed at her. You're so neat, she said. Unlike your sister, always losing things. I hadn't lost it, she stole it, and that's how it always went. She lied. I got punished. She smiled. I disappeared. That night I opened a new draft in Gmail. Subject, truth, no apologies. I wrote the email slowly, choosing every word with the precision of a scalpel. I didn't rant. I didn't beg. I attached the screenshot of Marla's message, her casual admittance. Then I walked them through everything. The fake messages, the expulsion, the years of silence, the moment my mother shredded my letter like it was trash, the time my father said I was a threat to the house. I wasn't asking for an apology. I wasn't looking for revenge. I ended it like this. Silence is not neutral. If you choose not to see what happened, you're choosing the side that caused it. Then I hit send. I expected nothing. Maybe a few unsubscribes. More silence. But the replies came quickly. A cousin I barely remembered. I had no idea. I'm sorry. An uncle. Your mother said you ran away. I'm sick reading this. Even Aunt Lila, who used to give me cough drops like candy, wrote, Thank you for telling the truth. Marla blocked me on everything the next day, and that was confirmation enough. But the real surprise came 2 days later, on a Thursday morning when I was drinking bad office coffee and reviewing website analytics. An email pinged my inbox. No subject, but bolded with legal flair. Cease and desist from my parents' attorney. Apparently, they believed my blog and the disparaging statements in my recent email violated their right to reputation. I laughed, out loud, right there in the middle of my open plan workspace. Maya from the next desk raised an eyebrow. You okay? I just got sued by my parents, I said too calmly. She blinked. Like, real sued? Allegedly. Damn, she muttered. They must really not want the truth out. They don't, I said, but it's already out. That night, I didn't panic. I didn't pace. I drafted my response like a woman who'd been building to this moment her whole life. If they wanted war, I was done playing fair. 3 weeks passed. The cease and desist threat sat unread in a folder named Closure. Not because I was ignoring it, but because it had no weight. I wasn't scared of letters anymore. I'd been silenced in deeper ways than paper ever could. That Friday afternoon, I was halfway through editing a client's pitch deck when a notification popped up. Instagram DM from Courtney S. The name sounded vaguely familiar. I clicked. Hey Skylar, don't know if you remember me. We had English together sophomore year. I just wanted to say, I always thought your sister made that up. She told people you hit her, but I never saw anything. I never saw bruises. I always wondered. Below it, a grainy screenshot. Marla's message to Courtney, dated October 2009. Haha, I faked that so good. She didn't even touch me, but you should have seen Dad's face, total Oscar-worthy moment. I stared at it. My stomach didn't drop. My hands didn't shake. I just felt confirmation. Like a ghost I'd spent years trying to convince people was real had finally spoken on tape. I saved the image. Then I called my cousin Kaylin. She was one of the few relatives who hadn't chosen sides, who'd kept her distance, but never closed her heart. When she picked up, I didn't explain everything. I just forwarded the screenshot. 10 seconds of silence. Then, you need to send this to everyone. All of them. They deserve the full picture. I hesitated. My voice lowered. What if it just makes things worse? She didn't pause. They made it worse by lying. You're just undoing the knots. That night, I drafted the message, attached the screenshot, included a brief sentence. This message isn't meant to hurt anyone, just to clarify what I endured in silence. I don't need your approval, but if truth matters to you, this should matter too. I hit send. Within hours, I saw movement. Notifications lighting up. Aunt Karen unfollowed Marla. So did Uncle Brad. Even Denise's best friend, who once called me ungrateful, removed every trace of Marla on social media. Someone forwarded the screenshot to Marla's company. Monday morning, her employer posted a cryptic status. We hold our team to high standards of integrity. Anything less does not reflect our values. 2 hours later, Marla's name was scrubbed from their website. Denise tried to post some vague defense. Family business should stay in the family. But it backfired. Hard. Aunt Donna replied, so should family betrayal. I didn't post anything. I didn't need to. I just watched it all unfold with the same stillness I used to sit with in the girls' bathroom years ago. Only this time, the door wasn't locked, and I wasn't hiding. Then came the invitation. A family dinner. Not formal, not holiday-related, just a gathering. I wasn't sure if it was a trap or an olive branch, but I went. It was at Aunt Lydia's. Small kitchen, big windows, nervous tension you could slice with a butter knife. I said nothing for the first 30 minutes. Let them talk about casseroles and sports and the weather like nothing ever happened. Then Uncle Darren cleared his throat. He wasn't loud, but the room went quiet anyway. We didn't believe you, he said. Back then, that was wrong. Several heads nodded. Someone whispered, we failed you. I looked up from my plate. Belief isn't a favor, I said. It's a responsibility, especially when silence costs someone their entire childhood. No one replied, but no one looked away either. Later, I stepped outside. The night air bit at my skin, but it felt good. Honest, the way a clean cut hurts but stops the infection. My phone buzzed. Marla. Why? That was it. Just one word. I stared at the screen for a moment, then typed back, because I deserved peace more than you deserved silence. I didn't wait for a reply. I just walked. Justice isn't loud. Sometimes it just doesn't flinch when the world shakes. A few weeks after that night, I found myself staring at my laptop, unable to look away from a simple dashboard. It wasn't a viral post. Not then. It wasn't even tied to my name. It was a quiet blog I'd launched under a pseudonym, The Glass House Girl. No photos, no tags, just a story called The Sister Who Lied. I hadn't shared it. Not once. I'd written it in the dim glow of a kitchen lamp at 3 a.m. after waking from a dream where I was 13 again, yelling, I didn't do it! And no one turned around. But someone found it, then someone else. It showed up in survivor forums, quoted like scripture. The truth didn't set me free. It made me strong enough to walk away. Then it made its way to Reddit, and TikTok, and Twitter, under threads like #FamilyBetrayal and #HealingThroughTruth. At first, I didn't want to be known. I just wanted someone, anyone, to see me the way I had never been seen. But anonymity, like silence, can only protect you so long before it starts to feel like hiding. When a complete stranger emailed me a screenshot of the post captioned, "Did you write this? I think I needed to read it today." I didn't answer right away, but when the third email came with just 3 words, "You saved me," I logged into LinkedIn, took a breath, and wrote, "Yes, this is my story, and I survived it." I hit post. By the time I finished lunch, it had 9,000 views. That night, it hit 45,000, then 78,000. I stopped counting after that, because the views weren't what mattered. It was the messages. Some said, "This happened to my brother." Some wrote, "I'm 60, and I thought I was crazy until now." Some just wrote, "Thank you." I thought I'd feel exposed. I didn't. I felt anchored. For the first time, I wasn't just reacting to pain, I was repurposing it. Then, a message came through from someone named Ben Rivers. Editor, New York. "Your voice is lightning in a bottle. I think this story needs to be a book." I stared at it for a long time, not because I didn't believe him, but because I'd never let myself imagine that far. A book? About this? About me? Would it feel healing, or would it feel like reopening the wound? I called Eloise that night. She was halfway through folding laundry, but she stopped when I said, "What if I wrote it all down for real this time?" She didn't hesitate. If it helps someone else not feel crazy, it's worth it. I called Ben back the next day. "I'll do it," I told him, "but on one condition. Name it. No sugarcoating, no soft focus. If we do this, it's raw, honest, full truth." He didn't flinch. "That's exactly what I want." We signed the contract a week later. I flew to New York to meet the team, walked into that publishing house with a borrowed coat and secondhand boots, but stood like I owned the place. In the conference room, I handed them my manuscript, every page of pain, mapped and organized, footnoted, and finally believed. Later that evening, I sat in the hotel, rereading the comments on the original post. There were hundreds. Some were from teenagers, others from people decades older than me. A few just left emojis, but one stood out. No profile picture, no username, just words. "I never told anyone, not once, until I read this. Thank you." That night, I opened the front page of the manuscript and wrote, "For those who survived what they couldn't prove. Healing doesn't mean the scars disappear. It just means you're no longer bleeding." The bookstore was already buzzing when I stepped inside. Portland rain slicked the windows, and the scent of paper, coffee, and something vaguely cinnamon hung in the air. A stack of my memoirs sat at the front, their glossy covers catching the warm light. Uninvited, the house I built alone, my name beneath it, real and unhidden. A woman in her 50s clutched the book to her chest as she approached me. "I read it in one night," she said, voice trembling. "I thought I was crazy for 30 years. I nodded and opened her copy. My hand moved on autopilot. "To your voice, may it never be silenced." The line stretched past the shelves, past the cafe counter, winding near the entrance. Some readers were crying, some couldn't speak. A few just smiled through trembling lips. I didn't feel like a hero. I felt like a witness, not to my own pain anymore, but to the fact that we weren't alone. That evening, back at the hotel, I turned on my phone and saw the email. No subject line, just my dad's name in the from field. "Your mother is sick. She wants to see you." That was it. No greeting, no explanation. I stared at the screen for a long moment, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Then, slowly, I typed, "I hope she finds peace. But I'm not the cure for her guilt." I didn't send it. I didn't need to. Forgiveness doesn't always end in reunions. Sometimes it's just letting go of the hope for a better apology. I closed the laptop and sat by the window, watching the street below blur under the rain. Somewhere in that same town, my parents probably sat in the same house, in the same chairs, maybe even saying my name, but not in love. Only in absence. I didn't need to go back. News had traveled. Marla had moved out of state after the social fallout. No public statement. No court case. Just disappeared. Her job no longer listed her on their website. The applause was gone, and all that remained was the hush that follows truth. As for Denise and Richard, they stayed put, still in that beige house in Boise, same curtains, same porch swing. But I'd heard they don't host family dinners anymore. They rarely get visitors. And when my name comes up, it's not with pride. It's with a grimace, like someone remembering a wound that never quite healed right. It's not revenge. It's reality. 6 months passed like a breeze after a storm, calm, but never quite still. Next week, I was flying to Boston. I'd been invited to speak at a national trauma recovery conference. Keynote. I packed light. Just one suitcase and my old notebook, pages now full of scribbles, tear stains, and things I never thought I'd say out loud. Eloise stood at the curb when I loaded the car. She hugged me, tightly and without ceremony. "You didn't just survive, Sky," she whispered. "You lifted the whole storm off your shoulders." I smiled into her scarf. "And now I get to help others weather theirs." As the car pulled away, I watched her grow smaller in the rear view. Not because I was leaving her behind, but because I was carrying her with me. Her strength, her faith, her belief in the version of me that didn't need anyone's permission to speak. At the airport, I opened my phone one last time and scrolled to the bookmarked quote I'd saved years ago. "You are not what they did. You are what you decide to become despite it." I never needed revenge. I just needed to remember that my life was still mine. You know, for the longest time, I thought healing meant fixing everything. Repairing the relationships, earning back the love I never truly had, forcing closure where none existed. But I've learned something else, something truer. Healing isn't about returning to what broke you. It's about building something stronger from the pieces. If you've ever been silenced, shamed, or made to feel small by people who should have lifted you up, I want you to hear this. You still matter. Even when they don't say sorry, even when no one shows up, you matter. What we survive doesn't define us. What we choose to become after does. I didn't write my story for revenge. I wrote it so someone else wouldn't feel as alone as I once did. If that someone is you, then I'm glad I kept going. So now I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever been blamed for something you didn't do? Have you ever found strength in your silence or in finally speaking? Let's talk in the comments. Drop a 1 if this story touched you, or tell me where in the world you're watching from. If you disagreed with anything, tell me that too. Let's have a real conversation. And hey, if you want more true stories that hit where it hurts and heal where it matters, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. Hit the bell so you don't miss what comes next. Your story matters. Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise.